On October 5, 2012, the reality TV show, Step Inside Recovery started filming an episode about Carson Morris, a teenager addicted to heroin. Suzanne Tully was the producer, Tim was the main cameraman, and Jason Hurwitz worked as the second cameraman and production assistant. The crew wondered if Carson's parents had mistreated her when she was younger, but they couldn't agree. They interviewed her parents, Beth and Steve, who said Carson had been smart and well-behaved. They shared her achievements and said she could even quote Bible verses. Even though the family wasn't Catholic, Beth and Steve explained that Carson went to Eastlake Academy, a Catholic high school. There, she became friends with McKee Littlefield. McKee was interviewed and said Carson was usually quiet and lonely, but had recently started acting strangely. Beth and Steve said Carson's behavior began to change after she started at Eastlake. When asked if they ever hurt her, they said no, but Steve admitted he sometimes had anger problems, though he controlled them. Their pastor, Reverend James Foley, also gave an interview. He told about a time Carson had an uncontrollable outburst after a church service at First Presbyterian Church in Westchester, California. Meanwhile, Jason and Carson became close off camera, and while filming extra footage in Carson's room, Jason and Tim found books about demonic possession and drawings of satanic symbols. When they checked her closet, they were shocked to find Carson hiding inside. Carson, once a straight-A student, started using drugs and now spends time with other addicts. The crew later filmed Carson using drugs, melting the substance and injecting it. When Suzanne asked how she felt, Carson said it made her feel good. When asked why she couldn't go a day without drugs, she explained that if she stopped, she would feel like killing someone. After the first interviews, Dr. Dean Pretis arrived at the Morris home to hold an intervention with Carson's family and friends. He asked Beth and Steve what they would do if Carson refused to quit, and Beth said she would keep Carson out of the house. Steve disagreed at first, but after Dr. Pretis talked with him, he agreed with Beth. When Carson came home, she was asked to join the meeting, and her parents began reading letters they had written to her. As Beth read hers, Carson screamed in a demonic voice. When McKee read her letter, Carson became furious, shoved the paper into McKee's mouth, and ran upstairs. Later, Dr. Pretis spoke to Carson alone, and he told her he had once been an addict but got help. Carson admitted she was tired of using drugs, but said something inside her took control. She explained that the drugs were the only thing keeping it down, and Dr. Pretis suggested she might be possessed by a demon. Carson agrees to get real help, which makes her parents and everyone else happy. Dr. Pretis takes her to the Hope Center, where Dr. John Cordes admits her for rehab. A nurse named Shanti runs medical checks and warns Carson that if she is caught using drugs, she will be expelled. Dr. Cordes explains that if she can endure the detox process, the drugs will leave her system in 5 days, though it will be difficult. The film crew is allowed to record her recovery for the show, and during an interview, Suzanne asks Dr. Cordes about Carson's claim of being possessed. He laughs and dismisses it, saying she is just delusional. On her first day, Carson can't sleep and eventually vomits. The next day in group therapy, patients introduce themselves and share their addictions. When Carson introduces herself, the others mock her because she insists she is possessed by a demon. However, Jason is the only one who takes her seriously. He visits her often and even sets up a small camera in her room so she can talk when he isn't there. On her third night at the facility, Carson's spirit is seen leaving her body. The next morning she is seen panicking, trying to control the demon inside her. Sitting in front of the camera, she explains that the dark feelings are returning and she doesn't know how to stop them. During a session with Dr. Cordes, Carson warns him about the demon, but he doesn't believe her. Suddenly, she starts speaking in a strange language, scaring both him and the film crew. Later that day, Beth and Steve visit the facility, and from what they see, Carson looks like she is recovering. But during a prayer session led by Beth, Carson feels sick, vomits on her mother, and then runs away. Many people, including the crew, think the vomiting is just part of withdrawal, but Jason feels something is truly wrong. He shows the others disturbing drawings and writings he found in Carson's trash. In group therapy, another patient, Eric, mocks Carson again until Dr. Cordes steps in. Suddenly, the demon takes control, and Carson starts revealing private details about Eric and the other patients before collapsing into convulsions. That night, Carson goes to the bathroom and stares at herself in the mirror. When she returns to her bed, something happens. The next day, during another interview with Dr. Cordes about Carson, Jason suggests bringing in a priest for an exorcism. Dr. Cordes rejects the idea, saying it would damage Carson's mental health. Later, Jason confronts Shanti, the nurse, after finding a makeshift cross in Carson's room. Shanti admits she once saw demonic possession in her home country, Cameroon. She explains that during an attempted exorcism, her community tied a possessed girl to a tree and beat her, but the girl died. Jason continues researching demons and secretly places holy water in the therapy room. During the next group session, Carson drinks it and immediately spits out blood. Shanti tries to perform an exorcism, but Carson, who is now possessed, throws her back with great strength. Carson is restrained while lashing out, and the crew records her eyes turning black. Later, Jason visits Carson alone, and she begs him to bring her heroin, claiming it's the only way to control the entity, but he refuses. She becomes possessed again, tries to seduce him, and then bites his fingers violently. When the crew hears about this, Jason, Suzanne, and Tim sneak back into the facility at night to record more footage, but when they check Carson's room, she is gone. Hearing screams outside, they follow the sound into the woods and find Shanti and others attempting an exorcism. Carson is tied to a tree, covered in blood, and struggling as the ritual goes wrong. The next day, Dr. Cordes fires Shanti after learning what happened, and he recommends transferring Carson to a psychiatric hospital because he can no longer handle her case. Suzanne strongly disagrees, leading to an argument between her and Dr. Cordes. Afraid that Carson will be sent to a psychiatric hospital, Jason leaves the facility to get something. That night, he sneaks back into her ward, and seeing her condition worsen, he reluctantly injects her with heroin. The next day, during a session with Dr. Cordes, Carson looks better, but the doctor notices a needle mark on her arm. Because of this, she is expelled from the facility and sent back home to her parents. Jason is also fired from the show, but he keeps investigating her condition on his own. He goes to the Morris house many times, knocking on the door, but no one answers, and this makes him more worried. Remembering how Carson attacked her high school friend during the intervention, Jason visits McKee and pushes her for another interview. McKee finally admits that she and her friends used to tease Carson by pretending to be devil worshippers. She shows Jason a recording of a fake occult ceremony where Carson accidentally became possessed by a demon named Moloch. Jason gets a copy of Codex Daemonis, the book the teens had used during the ritual, and begins studying exorcisms, and determined to act, he drives to the Morris home. Meanwhile, Suzanne calls Jason to ask about the production's video camera, and Jason tells her he will return it later. When she learns he is going to Carson's house, she and Tim decide to follow him. When Jason arrives, he knocks on the door, Beth answers, and Jason forces his way inside, tackling Steve when he tries to stop him. At first, Carson's parents are angry, but they grow fearful after hearing her screams upstairs. Beth leads Jason and Suzanne to Carson's room, where they find her injured and strapped her to the bed. The demon takes control of her, and Jason begins an exorcism, which makes the whole house shake. The ritual fails, and the demon attacks Jason, then cuts the power before fleeing the room. Meanwhile, Steve and Tim go to the breaker box and flip the switch, but the lights do not return. Steve goes off to search further, and during this time, Tim encounters the possessed Carson outside. Unaware that Carson is holding a knife, Tim is attacked and killed by her. Suzanne goes outside to search for Carson while Jason and Beth continue looking inside. During their search, Beth admits that Carson had suffered from a cycle of abuse that began with her father's alcoholism. Suddenly, Carson attacks Beth from behind, slashing her throat, and then turns on Jason. Outside, Suzanne cannot find Tim, but she does see his camera, and with no sign of him, she returns inside. Jason fights the demon but makes one last emotional appeal to Carson, and she begins resisting the demon. Jason hugs her, and together, they manage to calm it down while Suzanne records the moment. Their relief ends quickly when Steve enters the room and shoots Carson in the head. He then kills himself, convinced she is still possessed. Moments later, Jason attacks Suzanne and strangles her to death. He shuts off the camera, revealing that he is now possessed by the demon. Okay guys, that's all the recap about Inner Demons from 2014. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.